Thank you.
Hello.
So, when are you coming to the choir?
Is this where the speakers sit?
Well, this is where this speaker's sitting.
Yeah. How do these turn on?
Oh, I'll do it. I get you for a second. Script. Testing, testing.
You passed. All right. Can you all hear me okay? So Tyler, what we found is for these, the mic's a little hotter because sometimes somehow people in the back of the tables can't be heard. But welcome everybody. Thanks for coming and making this a priority. We know your day is important, and this is a time pre-lunch when your minds dwindle elsewhere, and you've probably already been to worship. We want to make sure to make the most of your time, but also make sure everyone knows just how important it is. We've been working on this for 18 months, and it will shape the next 50 or so years of this church, of the local area, and the surrounding area that you all come from in pretty amazing ways that we're hoping you all want to help us actualize and be a part of. And so thank you for being here, most importantly, because it takes the people to make God's work possible. And we pray that you are supportive of that and inspired by the work that we've done together as we gather. Start with a word of prayer, introduce you to what we'll do today, and then pass it off to the team. One of the scriptures that inspired me early on is from Proverbs, which, if you read Proverbs, don't read it verbatim all the time. It gets a little wonky. But this one is profound. It says, without vision, the people will perish. Without a sight of where they're headed, it means everything starts to dwindle. And what we've seen is that churches in the last 5 years very drastically have begun to perish. The outlook of Christianity in general has begun to decline. And that hopefully that's not news for you. I'm not surprising you, but church attendance, church involvement, the public impact that churches have has dwindled. The growth of nonprofits has taken away several of the things that churches used to do 30 years ago really well. And so we've had to readapt what a church is specifically and uniquely gifted to do, and how do we do those things well, let go of some of the things we used to think we did, and really follow God to create a vision of what our future looks like that helps us to continue to inspire people in faith and grow the belief that Jesus Christ is the Savior of the world. And a lot of times, it's not always coming in churches that are thriving and growing nowadays. It's not always coming from what used to work. And our hope is that you see enough of what we're planning and looking forward to that you're saying we're not throwing away the good stuff of church or canceling things that are the stalwarts and foundation of what we believe and do, but we're adding on to it in ways where we're creating a vision that other people can come on board with and is compelling for them as they are, not as they might have been 50 to 60 years ago. So there's some updates, there's some additions. We will not take away what you love. And nothing in here is saying delete this, cancel that. So many people I know read these things and they're looking for the critique or they're looking for the cancel, or what do I complain about first? I pray that you look for what you're excited about and you want to be a part of. And if you have questions about what's going away, I've already answered it. We're going to keep doing all the things that make us a people of faith that have inspired you to be a part of this and to even be at this meeting and prioritizing your time. That is important, that is valuable, because that is the vision that got us to where we are. And almost like forgetting where we came from or not listening to our elders is what begins the decline of a culture. We will not begin to stop listening to the vision that got us here or the people that brought us here. We're going to continue to grow off of the foundation that you all have built and what has been given to us as we listen to God for what's next. So that's what we've been working on. You have handouts in front of you. This is a single page of the 30-page full strategic plan that we've compiled. We don't assume everybody wants to see 30 pages of content with details. If you do, there's one on every table. There's enough for people to take home. If you don't get to take one home, I will print one out for you before you leave. Just ask. They are on our website for you to download and review on your own time and your own devices or print out. We'd love for you to look at the whole thing, but we don't assume that you have the time or interest in looking at the whole thing. So this is a short version of the story we're telling, the 4 themes we've created there are many goals. The backside has an outline of those themes and the 12 goals we have that we're looking for, and then some questions that we'll talk about later. So our hope is we're going to go over some of this and dig deeper into each of them to help you find where you're inspired and give you a quick review of all the goals so you get a broad picture of what the future of this church and where God's taking us will look, but it's not too detailed enough where you see what the sausage is made and you don't want to eat it. You know what I'm saying? So if you have questions or want more info, there's great time at the end to ask those things and dig deeper. All those full reports are online. And between now and May 24th, when we vote to approve this, our hope is it starts the conversation and you get to find your way into this as how you want to be a part of it. And the other thing I'll say is everyone gets to be a part of it in some way. Some people say, well, I'm low energy, low income, low mobility. I'm at the point where I can't really take a leadership role or invest a lot of time and resources. You are still a part of God's great plan and future for this congregation just by being here and by investing what you can in it. It might not be one of these goals, it might be worshiping, but that's your place. That's where we see you as a good fit. And so as we ask those questions today, don't look for, gosh, I don't like any of these, or I can't do any of these. Your role is to continue to worship and pray and inspire others, because there's always a place for God's people in those parts of the community. Also to encourage others who aren't here today, because we know for many reasons people can't be here or don't want to be here, but we hope to continue to steamroller and snowball this thing into a growing movement of the whole congregation that you get to start with. So let me pray and then we'll move on. You don't need to, the last thing I'll say housekeeping-wise, you don't need to read what's on the screens. It's all up there to show you we've got a really good plan that's well devised. There's a lot of fine print we know you can't read. Don't even try it. We'll talk it through, or it's on your papers, and we'll give you the inspiring gist of it, but it's all in a bigger plan that's, if you want to look at it, it's there for you. So let me pray. God, some of us feel like this is the end of a long year and a half, but we pray that you call it a new beginning, a new creation, a seventh day for all people, so that we may see what you are doing and walk in your way, so we get to be a part of Christ's mission in the world. We get to see a vision where all people feel the loving presence of God through the people in this room and all those who get to be a part of what we're doing. God, humble us by your grace. Inspire us by your love. Give us a chance to know you through the feelings in our body, through the inspirations in our mind, through the community gathered today, so that we have these practical signs that you're with us here and now in what we're shaping from what you've told us, so that we may know you are always with us. Through your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. All right, so a couple of things. Hit that next slide, please. A couple of things to introduce you to before we move into the plan. This is our team. My guess is you'll know some, and some are new to you, which is intentional and important. But these people were recruited and vetted and criminal background checked. Pastor Derek and I served the team. Paul Mercurio has been incredible at his business mindset and investment and diligence with us. Linda has such a great background in organizing. She's been wonderful at giving ideas on how do we make this, how do we put this together in a way that makes sense and share it. Casey Mills, wonderful addition to the church and the team. His faith is inspiring, and he has a great connection to God that you can feel when you're with him. And you'll see one of the themes he specifically is passionate about around contemplative Christianity that I think the world is hungry for, and I've loved having that. Len Merkel, you've all seen and heard plenty, but I don't feel like it's enough. He's just got such a humility about him. And his accent alone feels like a grandparent of America. He often has some great questions to ask that really take you on a different turn. Cheryl Lewis, in her retirement, we gave her a new job in organizing this thing, keeping us on task and on point. She's been a wonderful contact and resource. Loved having her involved. And Kelsey Long as well, who recently moved back with her newlywed husband back to the area. Loved having Kelsey's insight as someone who was raised in the church here, but also has some experience beyond the church and a younger voice to help us really figure out, we've done what we've done, but if we don't have younger voices especially, we're going to miss out on continuing to reach people in new ways. Cameron Trimble, you may have seen or met. She is the consultant we hired through Convergence. She has a wealth of international business, government experience at leading. I don't know why she took us on, to be honest, because of her experience with NASA and government affairs. We are small beans, but she's been incredibly helpful. We owe her a huge amount of gratitude for her investment. That's all just to say you're good on the people who put this together. If you don't trust us, then you don't know us. We'd love to get to know you better. But there's your team that has been working on this again for the last 19 months, I think it is, as of soon. And I would love for you to join me in sharing with the team your gratitude and round of applause. We're going to move on to Casey first. We're going to move on to the next slide, and you'll get to hear from them the rest of the time.
All right. Hi, everyone. Good to see you all. I'm going to first start with just like how we got to where we got to today, like what the work has gone into this so far and the outreach we've done. So there's our timeline up there. You'll see we started back in October of 2024, which is a long time ago. And we've really stayed involved because the whole team really loves long meetings on weeknights. Just a deep passion for all of us. And that's why, kidding. What we have done is really tried to do extensive and deep outreach to the entire congregation. And I think that's what this timeline really shows. We convened it back in October. We immediately started with a survey of the entire congregation. So some of you may remember getting that online survey, a link you click, you go in there and you answer a bunch of questions. We had a high participation rate. We reviewed those closely, and I'll talk more about that review process in a second. We then went on to community interviews, and those were really fascinating. So basically, we made a list of everyone we felt was important in the community, if it was principals of schools, police chiefs, foundation leaders, and we divided them up amongst our team, and we called them, and we asked them a series of open-ended questions. What do you see changing in your community? What role do you see the church having in the change? How can we help? And so we compiled those interviews and reviewed them closely as well. What's going on in the community? What does the community want? We then, after reviewing all the survey results from all of you, we read the results back to you. So the goal there was like, did we get this right? Is something wrong here? Did we miss something? And took more feedback on here's what everyone said in these surveys that we took online. After that, some of you may have attended one of our congregational webinars. There were two of those, and really their goal was to provide some context on where Christianity is in America right now, kind of the trends, the upward declines, the downward declines, and Pastor Ralph mentioned it earlier, but just giving us some sort of national context of like, what are we trying to do with our church in terms of how churches are operating nationwide? We then had the Futures Lab. I recognize some faces in here that were there for that. That was an almost all-day endeavor. And it was at times a frustrating event, like I will not deny it, because you were trying to peel away all your preconceptions of what you thought should happen at a church or at this church or with this community and really dream big. What is the biggest dream I can have for this place? And what does that look like? And how can I articulate it? We took the results from that. There were a lot of notes. We had table leaders at every table. We came back and reviewed those notes as well, adding those into the community interviews and the surveys that we did. And that's all the information that went into actually drafting the plan before you. So that's what went into all of our thoughts and hearts before we started writing this thing. We spent a long time writing it. It was really fun just being with a bunch of different people from different backgrounds and then trying to come up with a vision for this team while keeping everyone's feedback in mind. But we put that together. We took that to council, got council's feedback on that, made some changes, and we've been going to committees and teams ever since, just showing them the plan, talking to them about the plan, getting additional feedback from whatever team is operating throughout the church. And now we're at the Congregational Town Hall, where we're unveiling everything to everyone and hopefully hear what y'all have to say again, and then we'll go to the congregational vote. That is our timeline, and I think we can go to the next slide. That's Len.
Well, following on from Casey's really good presentation there, let's put this whole process of vision and strategic plan into a little bit of context. If you think about really successful organizations, they're driven by really being mindful of 4 guiding principles. They define a mission, which is essentially defining why they exist, like our church. They define their values, which is how they act. And if you remember, our values are being genuine, being relevant, being involved, and being together. GRIT stands for grit. That's what we have. They also define their vision, which is where they would like to be, where they see themselves being in the future. And then they define themselves a strategy, which is essentially how are we going to get from now to then. And that's essentially the first 2 parts of this, the mission and the values, we've already defined. They seem to be hanging together pretty good, and we can build on those, and that's where the vision and the strategy come forward. So our proposed vision statement, and you can clearly see it up there. I can't even see that from here, so I'm going to read it out to you. Our proposed vision statement is, together walking in the ways of Jesus, we strive to create a place of belonging and purpose by building authentic connection, living faith boldly, and loving our community deeply. Okay, it's a little bit of a mouthful. So I don't know about you guys, but I often, when I'm talking to friends who are not members of this church, and sometimes even not church people at all, I get asked the question, so what do you do at church? What kind of a place is it? Is it friendly? Is it nice? Is it boring? Is it old and fuddy-duddy? Is it really weird? Whatever. I get asked these questions, not all the time, but fairly frequently. And if we were to answer that question, who do we want to be? We might say to somebody like that, something like this. And you'll see that this is actually on the front page of your single sheet. You can either read it along with me or you just listen. So we imagine Lutheran Church of the Resurrection as a place that feels like home from the moment that you first arrive. A community where people of all ages and backgrounds are known, welcomed, and invited into meaningful connection. Worship is engaging and grounded in real life. Faith is lived out beyond Sunday mornings. And participation flows naturally as people discover their gifts and step into shared life together. And Pastor Ralph very kindly said a few nice things about the members of the team that put this plan together. I can tell you, I have not experienced so many gifts given to people as I have done working with these people on this team. And every one of you could have been a member of that team. This is a church where belonging is practiced, not just spoken about, where curiosity is welcomed, not dampened, and relationships are the heart of every single thing that we do. In this vision, our impact extends well beyond our walls. Our campus serves as a gathering place for the wider community. Our partnerships reflect deep care for neighbors near and far. And our spiritual life is marked by creativity, by depth, and by joy. Leadership is shared and supported. Generosity is fueled by gratitude and trust. And stewardship is aligned with purpose and sustainability. And that's really, really key. Stewardship being aligned with purpose and sustainability. Together, walking in the ways of Jesus, we are becoming a community that lives faith boldly, loves deeply, and makes a lasting difference. Not by being bigger, but by being truly alive together. So how do we get there? Next slide, please. So again, after studying all of your input and the feedback that we received from the investigative phase that our team's process uncovered, as Casey outlined there, we discerned that the key components of our shared vision fall into 4 overall general themes. And you can see the themes up there on the screen, and you have them in front of you. Energizing participation, which is essentially helping us, each of us, evolve from just attending to being fully engaged. Community engagement, where we become a welcoming space and hub of compassion for our neighbors. And you heard Tarek earlier on this morning talk about the gathering in. It's a perfect example of what we're already doing. Let's build on that and expand that. Spiritual deepening, encouraging and facilitating creative spiritual practices of worship, study, and prayer. And finally, sustainable stewardship, building a church that's both financially strong and environmentally conscious. So let's take a look at some examples of goals we want to achieve in each one of these themes. Next slide, please.
Hands up, energizing. Hi, I'm Cheryl, and this is my passion, and I'm hoping many others of you will feel the same way. But I want to energize participation. I want to get the people who just come into church every now and again to learn more about us and to be a part of our community. So in order to do that, we've decided energizing participation is highly important to the engagement of the people within our church and the people we'd like to bring to our church. So the purpose here is we will embrace creativity and experimentation, trying new formats and approaches to better engage our congregation and welcome newcomers into a dynamic and responsive church environment. That might be some changes in the way that things look for us, maybe online. Maybe some of it might look a little different on paper as well. So we're going to try to improve our communications with looking at maybe how other people, other churches look now, especially online. Do we look like others look online, or do we look kind of out there on our own? We want to make it look so that we are nothing but a welcoming place for all ages, all types of people, and for everyone. And with that, I personally would like to hire a communications person, but we'll see if that works out. That's one of my dreams, is to have someone here who oversees all the communications for the church. But again, that's part of the dream of this particular topic. We're also kind of looking at identifying target audiences for which our communications and our strategies will work. We want to develop templates, automations, and regular communication schedules, assign roles and responsibilities, and train staff and volunteers on new communication strategies. So that's a big piece of our energizing participation, is the communications part. We also would like to create pathways to engagement so that when new people come here, they can easily see what would interest them and where they would want to be a part of our church. It would be just a very open-ended, very simple way for them to say, oh, hey, I would like to be a part of Word to Women, or I would like to be a part of the Connect group, or I would like, but very just transparent. That's all we're working for here, is to make it easy and transparent for you and for newcomers to participate and be in our church community. That's about, we're going to equip our leaders and enhance leadership opportunities. Again, more of creating pathways to engagement is the most important thing. I think we can go to the next slide.
Thank you, Cheryl, and for your energizing dance. I don't have an energizing dance. There you go. That was all I got. Thank you. Okay. All right. So I'm doing community engagement. One thing we heard over and over when we were doing a lot of our interviews is how can we kind of break down any walls between the community and the church? Not only that, but how can we tap into one of our greatest resources, which is this incredible campus that we have, like beautiful buildings everywhere, the field, the grove, so many places to just experience this space and really get a feel for what the church is all about. So that's really what this goal is about, is trying to get people onto campus, not only so they can see what we're all about, but also so we can learn better how to serve the community that we're based in. And so I'm going to talk about really goal one as the main goal, but there's 3 different goals. The goal one is to really create this campus and increase its use as a gathering place for the community. So maybe that looks like having an event where we have a panel on an issue that's facing the community. Maybe we have classes for folks that want to learn about something that isn't necessarily really specifically church focused, but is more community focused. There's a lot of ways we see this working, but ultimately the goal is we're interacting with our community and our community is interacting with us. We're learning from each other and we're becoming a more supportive part of the community, and the community is seeing us as a supportive part of their life. Briefly, I'll touch on the other 2. There's a really cool storytelling series that Pastor Derek, I think, has really, formulated and pushed forward, and it's a really, really cool idea, so I'd encourage you to bug him. I promise he'll do an engagement dance. I actually cleared that with him beforehand, just a quick one, so yeah. And then the final one is global mission partnerships. There's a lot to talk about there, but I don't want to take up too much time, but re-energizing our global mission partnerships is part of that community engagement. So the community isn't just Granite Bay, it's the broader region, and it is the world. So with that, I think we can go on to the next slide.
So I'm sure you're getting an impression that there's probably more to this than you're being read at right now from these examples. Every single one of these themes has a number of goals behind it, and you can dig really deeply into that by looking at the full strategic plan there. Under spiritual deepening, one of the goals that we've defined there, I'll read it out from here because I, for some reason or other, neglected to write it down in my notes. Integrating contemplative and creative practices into congregational life. So what does that mean? Well, lots of people have experiences, if you like, of different ways of worshiping. that they've experienced maybe in different churches or in their own personal lives and so on. So one of the things we'd like to do is to host workshops that encourage people to explore different spiritual practices. Maybe lining up those workshops with parts of the liturgical calendar, for example, something related specifically to Advent maybe, or Lent, or something like that. So to give you some examples of that, mindfulness, walking, meditation. No, that's not sleepwalking. Walking, meditation is a very, very different process. Journaling. Anybody into journaling? Yep, quite a few people in here, I think. And labyrinth prayer. And if you've never done a labyrinth walk praying, you've missed out. You should try that. It's a wonderful experience. That's just one goal. A second goal is to expand pathways for faith formation across generations. So one of the things that comes across a lot in questions about the way that we handle things like Bible studies, classes, and so forth. Why don't we have a more formal, foundational faith formation syllabus? And that would be a really, really nice project to take on board. So that's the second goal of this spiritual deepening. Last slide. Next slide, not last slide.
So the last of the four themes is sustainable stewardship. Stewardship is always, how do we manage what God gives us? And we're choosing to do it in a sustainable way, because most of the time we're just shooting a prayer out there that it's going to work out year over year and that we'll get enough people and enough money and enough stuff to make it work. But how do we sustain this? Over the past 5 years, we have replaced 15% of our annual budget is now from rentals and partnerships that we have, which is huge because it means less of your money goes to these lights being on and more of your donations goes to the things like worship and outreach, and we can utilize partnerships for those things. So it's a sustainable way of continuing to provide for the resources we need to operate. So the three goals under sustainable stewardship are strengthening financial resilience and generosity. So helping all people develop a God-inspired way of giving joyously rather than giving under duress or force. And also trying to be more transparent about how we spend money and where we spend money. But you heard some of it from Tarek about how we're choosing to take care of our facilities and how we're choosing to replace old things with new, more sustainable resources, how we're also choosing to purchase products, things like the coffee cups. Are we using things that are going to go into a landfill every Sunday, or are we choosing to use biodegradable cups and environmentally sustainable options? Second goal in there is to steward our campus and property as a community resource. Again, choosing to allow rentals and partnerships to use the facilities in some way. We do this already several times a year, but it's never been an intentional focus to really say, this is God's property that we get to take care of, but it's not just for the people who are a part of this church. And in a way, that's a great front door for other people to come to faith who have been burned by churches, turned off by churches, or didn't grow up experiencing faith. They get to come for a craft fair like yesterday, experience the hospitality, the goodness, the generosity of the people who are a part of the church, and then maybe they consider, oh, faith might be a way to experience the rest of that. So in generations past, people came in through faith, like you're supposed to do this or this is important. And now they might come through Sally Loper being a friendly face who gives them a free hot dog and says, we do this tomorrow too. Every Sunday we're open, come on back. And they get to witness God firsthand through worship, but that's not the first thing that they experience. And that's one of those trends that we really had to figure out, how do we do this well when so many people are not interested in the faith aspect, but would love to have a community space and good people to meet with. So that's that second goal. The third one, and this is the exciting one in that theme, sustainable stewardship, is investing in our leadership staff and volunteer vitality in a way where we get to train and bring people up who are leaders of volunteers in the churches. We get to resource you with new skills and experience, possibly having a leadership school of some kind where you get to grow into how you lead. We also get to create some practices and metrics on how all our volunteers are leading their teams and small groups in ways that, we're bringing the bar up on excellence and the quality of the organization by empowering all of you to go from people who say, I couldn't lead a small group because I was just a blank in your career or just a this in your home, to now saying, well, it's easy for any of God's people to lead because we're going to give you the tools, teach you to be a leader in the ways, and give you tools to help stay on track with how the church is leading. So that's an exciting one. But also it includes celebrating our leadership and staff and volunteers in a way, maybe having an annual Oscars awards party, something like that. Finding fun ways to celebrate who we are and how we're growing in bigger ways as part of sustainable stewardship. So that was the 4 themes, and that was the 12 goals that were underneath them, just blips. And you'll hear some exciting things from each people. A community hub, having place for people to connect with popular topics or learn new things or take new classes. Exciting ways in which we can get all of you more involved as a way of developing your faith. New creative practices, faith practices, and also finding ways to empower leaders. And we hope you find your space in there within those goals as we build it out once this plan launches. So the next thing Casey's going to get up and talk about is how are we going to make this thing happen? Because the big question is, this is huge. How are we going to do it? And Casey's got some ways in which we've formulated to help.
And so I want to start this conversation off kind of going back to all the outreach we did. There's 2 big points that I want to emphasize that kind of guided how we put together how we're going to implement this. No one we talked to and no one we heard from wanted to completely change the way we do everything at Lutheran Church of the Resurrection. That is just not what we heard from people. So what we're proposing in this implementation plan is not a complete restructuring of everything. It's building on what we already have and leaning into our roots here. The other theme was, we don't want to tell anyone what to do. So we're not going to come to any committee and say, thou shalt do X, Y, and Z. We want this to come from people's hearts and from their own passions and their own interests. So there's a lot of ways to get involved, but really, interest and involvement is going to come from all of you. So the way that looks like structurally, we'll have the council overseeing the strategic plan and implementation of the strategic plan. Then for each of those 4 themes you heard us talking about, there will be a team captain for each one of those themes. And so they'll really be the point person on like, hey, I have this idea for how to build the hub out. You go and talk to that person. Hey, I want to go to a meeting where we talk about spiritual deepening. You'll go to the team captain. They're also responsible for reporting to the pastors and to the council on progress, how things are coming, how far we're getting on each of these themes. And progress is really going to just be dependent on enthusiasm, interest, and energy from the congregation. There are 3, okay, so the last part is just some of these goals you'll see really overlap with work committees or teams are already doing. So it's stuff that some committees and teams have already got their hands in some way. So we've been going out and approaching them and saying, here's our idea for a goal. How do you see yourselves involved in this goal? Do you want to be, and if so, how? So that covers 8 of the goals, where we've been doing outreach and integration with the already existing teams. There are a few goals where there's no existing team, where we feel like there really isn't anyone doing this specific type of work. And so for those goals, we're proposing new teams. You'll see leadership development, the community hub, and faith formation. And so for those, we'll be working with council to develop new teams that are really going to work on implementation of those specific goals. As I've said over and over, the real key to implementation, though, is you. So if we could go to the next slide. I'd like to share this passage from Ephesians. For you are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do. So really what we're asking is for you to look internally, do some internal discernment. Where am I being called? What interests me? We're here to talk to you about that. But what we're going to do right now is in the back, you'll see these 4 sheets of paper with 4 little signs. There's going to be someone in front of each of those, and they represent the 4 themes we've talked about. And no pressure here. Bob Dennis has announced this. He's going to play that music while everyone's walking up, and it's going to be awesome. But go ahead and walk back to whichever theme you think you're interested in, or maybe multiple, and we're asking for you to sign up. That doesn't mean we're going to call you tomorrow and force you to do 20 things. That means the next meeting about that theme you'll be invited to. So you can get involved at whatever level of comfort you have for that. So with that, take a moment, and if you're moved, go ahead and come back to one of these 4 sheets of paper, and we will sign you up for one of these different themes.
So do that based on what you're interested in right now, and then come on back to the tables. We have a little more discussion and open question asking.
Energizing participation. Woohoo!
That's all right. Give me the next slide.
Okay.
Okay. Great. Yeah. All right, so if you've already put down your interest, come on back to your tables. We'll do a little more discussion and field some questions and input. You just need me to sign you up? You've gone remote. You're now hybrid. You're now on the remote work capability. You can work in your pajamas from home. I know. All right, so come on back to the tables. We don't have a lot of time left in this room. If my strategic team can be a good model to people, that would help. I know, that's the hard part. It's the time enthusiasm balance.
Casey and I were wondering how many people we think are here.
68.
Is that what you counted?
I didn't count.
Oh, okay, but roughly.
Yeah, something like
The
that.
answer is 42.
Yeah, exactly. We have. Yeah. So we're going to move on to some table discussion, and I love the enthusiasm. This is great. This is what our hope was, to get you all interested, involved, and start to dream with us, because now, as you can see, there isn't a very specific, hey, we're going to do this, it's going to take this amount of money, we're going to have it done by this date. We have a few of those, but as you get involved, you'll help shape some of these things, and that's really how this church has always and will always thrive. So at this time, what we want you to do is turn with your table and kind of give everyone a chance to answer these questions. Here's what I'll say. What often happens now with these things is everyone gets their church ideation going, and you have your pet projects that you say, oh, like someone said, hey, we need new striping in the parking lot. That's a great input, and we'll take that down. And we're already working on it. Thank you for that idea. If you have those ideas, let's get those at the end. But right now, it's to kind of focus on what this vision is, because in a month, on May 24th, at the annual meeting is when we'll approve it. And then what will happen is in June, those team captains for each team will contact people interested within that theme. And they'll contact you about getting together to do more within that theme. So there's some things that aren't a part of the vision bucket. It's just like, yeah, we need to get the pastor's new robes. Not part of the vision, just needs to be handled. Does that make sense? So like at your house, you need to clean the baseboards. But in the future of your house, you want to remodel the whole floor, right? We're talking about remodeling the floor. Let us know if the baseboards need to be cleaned here, but let's talk about remodeling the floor for now so that we get to spend time looking forward. So these are the questions for the tables. If you spend some time talking, what excites you? What needs to happen? And each table, the hope is you have something to share out when we come back together to the bigger group on these things. And if you have any questions at that time is a good time. The last thing I'll say before you all start talking at tables is the goal isn't, this plan does not have every one of the 600 members or 70 teams and ministries in it. We didn't say specifically, here's what the choir does, here's what prison ministry does, here's what Bible study does. Because our hope is you take these themes that are big enough to say, how do I, as a choir member, work with the choir to develop our own vision of how we help develop leadership? How do I, as a member of a Bible study, help be more sustainably stewards? So each group and individual creates your own vision of how you want to help this. So again, Casey said it really well. We're not micromanaging each individual. We're giving you a place on the bus to decide, hey, where do I want to take the people that I'm sitting with? Does that make sense? So Sal even did a great job ahead of time of forming his own teen ministry vision. If we did that as a vision team of people who aren't teenagers, aren't children, and aren't involved, we'd be micromanaging a group of people that we aren't involved with. So it's up to all of you to be helpful or ask for help on how do I shape the vision for my group. So if your question is, how come you didn't include the property team anywhere in here? This is offensive. I would say, great, let's work with the property team on how you're going to help serve where God's taking the church. So these are hopefully big enough for you to see your place and get involved. Does that make sense? So you are a part of this, both in the teams, but also in what you're already doing. So go ahead, take some time, work through these 4. We're going to take just 4 minutes to do that. So quick answers are best, and then we'll hear as a group from what you heard at your table and any other questions that we might have missed. So go ahead and do that now. All right, just take one more minute, and if anybody hadn't shared, let them share, or if anything really excited you, you didn't get to say, go for it. What's that, the preaching part? I don't know how either. Is it a high five? All right, if I could get the strategic team members back up here in case there's any input, feedback, that kind of stuff. Paul, Cheryl, Derek. Len, did Len leave? So, just, yeah, Derek, Cheryl, come on up in case there's any, we'll tag team any questions that come up. But, so just a couple of, so just throw out come on up, Paul, if people have questions that I'd rather, Linda, if people have questions or things you want to respond to, go for it. First, just yell it out. What did you hear loudly from your tables? What excited you the most? Very kind of you. Thank you. What else? What excited you? Energy. Good. That's great. Young people, excellent. Yeah, good ways to bring young people in through the. Yeah. Yeah, and there's a lot in the plan that is going to be helpful at meeting people where they're at. Kelsey, any input on that?
No, I think that's a great point. At least for me personally, that demographic sort of youngish. I think it's more about like the impact that we're having and like what the activity is than necessarily anything else. So like my participation in this group, very passionate about the church, and so I couldn't always make it all the meetings, and props to the team for letting me sort of be flexible where I needed to be. But I think that's a big point of it, of like when I can show up to choir on Thursdays, I'm always there and like I'm in it, but sort of like the flexibility is another big point. Well, thank you so much, Sally.
Just so you know, we did go out and interview the young families directly. I think Ralph and I went and did that. And I'm going to tell you, a lot of it had to do with childcare. You know, they have to have someplace to drop that child so they can go out and take a Bible study class or get involved in a marriage group or something, because they have to have the daycare or the childcare. And that's a big thing for them. It just really is. And they'd be probably more involved that way. But that's something we have to look at addressing.
Yeah, I think in the plan. So for questions, I think what we can do as a team is say, where in the plan do we see this serving that role? And a big piece of it is valuing what those young families want more than buckets we have to fill. So something I heard many times when I first got here is, why aren't there young people in the choir? And I would say, well, would you like to sing? Would you like to know what songs they want to sing? And the answer was often, well, we've got plans or we've got tradition that we're going to sing these songs. Great songs, great history and heritage in those songs. However, do we really value young people, or do we value new butts in the seats and don't care about what they care about? And so as Kelsey came on board, you see just how valuable she was at helping shape the choir and shaping her interests. So the same thing, the community hub is going to be a great opportunity to say, what do you care about? Go into that neighborhood over there, find out what young families want, If they're interested in learning about psychology, the community hub's going to have a class on psychology and a young family's going to come. If they're interested in just moms having a break for an hour with childcare, great, we're going to do that at church. So being able to value people for who they are rather than, we just need young people because we're dying. That's not a strategy. That's a struggle. Yeah, I'm sinking in quicksand. I need a warm body, not a we care about who they are. So there's plenty of places in the plans where we hope to do that without saying we need young people, but it naturally helps serve them. Yeah, you're in charge. Good. That's great. What else excites you? What did you hear? What did you hear from the cheap seats in the back? Marilyn, Rob, Lynn, and Scott and Jane? So they said community engagement and energizing participation felt like great themes to move with. And that seems like we got some head nods here. What else?
I heard that Nancy and Warren love storytelling.
Ooh.
Right? Nancy loves storytelling, so she's got her name. And Warren is telling stories all the time anyway. Yeah. So that was we've got a real interested person in that. Maybe a experienced person too. Ah, wonderful. Good. Rick?
Well, I may not need this because I got a lot of.
Try it anyway. It's on.
Okay, so I'll then lessen my voice. The storytelling, in conjunction with leadership skills. I mean, that really piques my interest. In storytelling is in everything, even what I do in project management, to convey information, whatever that information is. Storytelling is the best way to have it, make it more interesting and to grab on for the future. So storytelling is great, and if we can get some leadership training for storytelling, that would be fantastic too.
Good.
That's just my input.
Yeah.
Right. I'm sorry, you got me at beer. Sign this lady up right now.
What else? Any other exciting things to note? Go ahead, Kay.
What I think I heard at this table was not something new, but what you've already kind of set up that I hope works out was your 4 strategic areas and getting people signed up for those. For people like me who have been in this church for 50-some years and at one time was very active, not so active anymore, it's sometimes you have things to say, you're not sure who to talk to. So just to know who might be the one to reach out to for something, maybe you don't want to do it. It's just an idea to suggest that you would help with. That was good to know, to hear.
That's good. So how about the second question? What needs to happen to make this successful? Where do you see opportunities? What else? What needs to happen? We got people and a plan, and we've got those things, and continuing to recruit. You all just signed up to be get more info. What else needs to happen? Where do you see gaps or needs or opportunities? John, over here.
Not let all of this excitement and enthusiasm die off in 3 or 4 months. I accept this award. Because a lot of times that happens is that there's a lot of good ideas. There's a core group of people in the church that start that idea. But then what I've seen in the past is that you go about 4 or 5 months, that core group of people say, okay, now we have another idea that we want to work on. And they go off in that direction, and the original one starts to die off.
Yeah.
So we've got to keep that support, that feedback, that structure continuing on.
Yeah, and that's
saying I think that the communications is one of our links, a very strong glue.
Yeah, that's a big piece of that communications part Linda was talking about. And also, this is the third plan since I've been here in the over 13 years. And the last 2 we finished because we succeeded, which means they didn't run their course because people forgot about them. They ran their course because we got it done. We grew, we developed. You see there's a new tech package in here in the other building. There's new website and communications models. There's new involvement. There's another pastor. There's all these things we succeeded at. So hopefully that shows this church, you've all been actively involved and consistently to the point where we continue succeeding in our plans, where a lot of churches do. They have a lot of momentum, but then you never hear about it. Hopefully that just says, let's keep going. All right, then the last 2 are kind of more discussion questions. So are there any open questions, feedback, input that you have lingering to add in a succinct way that would be helpful or interested in hearing the answer to? That's not for the team. The team made the plan. We can talk about that later, but that's a good question. What do you got, Rob?
So first thing, I just want to say that I went through the full packet, and I love that organizational structure you came up with, the mapping of the goals and the themes to our existing structure. That just turned the light bulb on for me. If you hadn't had a chance to look at that, please do. It may put a lot of this into good context. But one question I did have, looking through this, there was mention of the hub as being the Granite Bay hub. And I was just wondering if that might be a little bit geographically limited. And also, if I'm choosing my words carefully here, if there are certain connotations associated with Granite Bay to where that might come across as a little exclusionary or something.
You know, that's true. Yeah.
Let me check my gold-plated watch first to see if we have time to answer. Oh, yeah, we do. Okay,
Says a-
good. Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I just want to say, like, I don't think we were intentional in naming that as it being about Granite Bay. It's just that's where our church is. But that is an excellent point that I think we could have considered when we named it. And I think moving forward to whatever team is involved in implementing the hub, I think it should be looking regionally. And I think it should be a broader group. And that's a suggestion for a name, but that definitely does not need to be the name for it. So I think whoever is working on that, it'd be really wise to listen to that feedback. I think it's super smart. I just think we missed it. I think we just called it that because that's where we are. No comment.
We'll call it Bayside. Because we're right near the bay.
Yeah. I have to tell you, in all humility, when I first saw it, it was written down as GB Hub, and I thought it's got to be Great Britain. I'm sorry. The Great British Hub, yeah.
We've got 3 more minutes in this room before the other church is coming in. So what other questions or spitball stuff you got?
I just want to say thank you to your feedback.
It's a good way to end.
Well,
So-
in response to your thank you, I just want to say this is your plan, not ours. This is your plan, because this plan is based on the foundation of all of the input that we got from you. So thank you.
So the next steps are May 24th is the annual meeting. Plan to join us for that, where we approve this as a congregation. Between now and then is the last bit of input. So if you have other ideas that are stewing, you're welcome to send them in directly to the pastors, and we'll work with the team, or connect with one of these fine people. And after that will be when these interest lists, the team captains begin to gather those people to dream and gather feedback like Rob's and others on how these goals become more real, because they are very much directions that you'll help shape, not specific, measurable, detailed actions in a way, which is more beautiful for a community to shape. So hopefully you'll be there for the annual meeting. You'll continue to look at this and also be the cheerleaders for your other people who are worshiping and attending to say, have you looked at it? What do you think? Here's what I thought. That kind of stuff is very helpful. And continuing to get input is important. So thank you for that along the way. Any last words from anyone on the team? Yeah. Great.
Oh, did you hear me? Anyway, it has been a blessing. Yeah.
All right, Derek, would you close us in prayer as we leave, please?
All right, let's end in prayer. Let's, gracious God, we thank you for leading us to this point. We've been able to see your spirit in this process from the beginning. It's been powerful. It's been swelling forth and leading us forward in various ways of inquisition and curiosity, and that's just been such a blessing and a learning and a growing process for us as a church. And so as we go forward, we ask that you infuse our minds with that same curiosity, that same energy and excitement over what new possibilities lie ahead for us, that your spirit is guiding us towards and leading us towards. That's where the excitement and the energy comes from, and we so give you thanks for that presence, that spirit. So we ask for continued presence and opportunity and ways in which we can engage in the life-giving work that you offer us. We pray this in the name of your Son. Amen.